Hi everyone, welcome to the first live Q&A for Shell Eco Marathon Asia 2018. Here with us today we have the Shell Eco Marathon Asia Technical Director, Colin Chin, whom you probably all already know.
Hi.
Ying, who is your Student Comms Manager. You will have met last year in Singapore. Sorry. I see there's quite a few people joining, so thank you for being here and thank you for joining the call. Apologies for the last minute change. It's an ideal to change the link like that, but unfortunately we didn't have a choice. But thank you so much for joining, everyone. 40 people here watching, which is great. Let's just wait a couple more minutes until everyone can join. Those who just joined, hi. Welcome to the Shell Eco Marathon Asia live Q&A session number 1, where we will mostly be concentrating on the new Chapter 1 rules and the changes since 2017. So with us today we have the Technical Director for Shell Eco Marathon Asia, Colin Chin, going over those rules with you today in a presentation. Have Ziying, who is here and who has the difficult task of answering your questions all along the year and organizing everything for you to make sure you have a great time. We have a stable number of people joining, so I think we're ready to start. Colin, if you wouldn't mind starting with your presentation.
Sure. Okay. Ziying, can you show the slides?
Yep.
So first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first Q&A session. If you do have any questions, kindly post your questions on the Hangout, and we will try to address them at the end of the session. The plan is to actually cover the rules in the first half an hour, and after that, we will take any questions you may have. All right. So just put your questions in the Hangout comments section. Okay, can we start with the first slide, please?
Ziying, I can't see your screen yet.
You can't?
No.
Hang on. Let me just... Now?
Yes, now
Coming
it's
up.
working.
Can you make it the full screen?
Okay,
please?
great.
Okay, I hope, first of all, that everyone has downloaded a copy of the rules. It is available on the Shell Eco Marathon website, and it is a PDF format, so please download it and read it as soon as you can. Next slide. We have actually 4 chapters to the rules. The one that you need to download first is Chapter 1, which is the Shell Eco Marathon 2018 Global Rules, which is all about the technical design. Later on, there will be a Chapter 2 rules, which is about the event in Singapore. And later on, a Chapter 3 rules for the Drivers' World Championship. And even later on, Chapter 4 for the Autonomous Urban Concept Competition, which we will talk about later. Okay, next slide. So I'm just going to highlight key changes to the rules. It will be very fast because I tried to make it all as simple as possible, and we don't have much time. So first of all, one important change in the rules is that all drivers must have a minimum age of 16. Okay, so if you're 15, not allowed. So everybody must be at least 16 years old. Next slide. Right. Regarding the driver weights, as you know, we need a minimum of 50 kilograms for prototype drivers and 70 kilograms for urban concepts. So there are a few changes to these rules now, in that we allow weightlifting discs, as you can see in the picture there, which will be allowed as ballast if you're underweight. So the important thing to note is that ballast will be based on the weight of the lightest driver. So let us say you have 2 drivers, both are underweight. and say they are for the prototype category, and one is lighter than the other, the ballast that is required for your car is based on the lighter driver, not on the heavier driver. Okay, we will not have two types of ballast for the two different drivers. It will just be based on the lightest driver. So if, let's say, the lightest driver is 40 kilograms and the second lightest driver is 47, we will base the ballast required on the lowest one, which is 40 kilograms. So you need to then supply a 10 kilogram ballast. And this ballast will be attached to the vehicle and it will be sealed. Okay, next slide. So this ballast will be fixed on the vehicle and sealed. The reason why we do that is so that we do not have to mess around with the ballast every time we start the competition, because for those who have competed before, you will remember that we are always checking the weight of the driver and the ballast. So by so doing, we want to make the process more efficient so that when you come for the competition, you don't have to worry about checking the ballast and whether it's present and whether it's correct. Okay, so it will be sealed and you are not allowed to tamper with it once it's sealed. Regarding the helmets, there are small changes in the helmet rules. One is that the certification label must be clearly readable, if you see the left picture. Second is that the helmet must not have any cracks or indentations, right? So obviously a helmet that is damaged is not safe. And lastly, the visor must also be free from scratches and have good, clear visibility. Okay, all very obvious. So make sure your helmets are in good condition. The next one is about driver clothing. We have seen in the past some teams actually have two-piece racing suits. This is no longer allowed. You will only allow one-piece racing suits. Okay, so it should not be coming in two pieces. And second is that the racing suit must cover the arms and the legs as well. So there should not be any parts which are bare. Okay, so for example, your elbows and your arms should all be covered. And the other thing is that all drivers must have socks as well. Okay, and we do not want to have any bare skin visible on the body. Okay, all must be covered by the suit and the gloves and the socks. Okay, next slide. All right, regarding vehicle, crates, and transportation, this is a very important thing, particularly for the Asian event, because we have teams from all over the region. We have 20 countries this year, and a lot of them are shipping from overseas. So it is very important to get guidance from the shipping company on the latest regulations which you need to comply with. There's some guidelines on the Shell Eco Marathon website as to how to handle dangerous goods. So there'll be documents on that. And there will also be mandatory declaration forms. So you can also pick that up off the Shell Eco Marathon website. And we would also suggest that you contact Agility, because we will provide the contacts there, and find out from them what are the precise regulations and requirements that need to be complied with, all right? Because to make sure that your cars arrive on time at site, we need to have all the necessary declarations and proper procedures. And all the mandatory forms need to be sent in as well. So please take note of this. And we encourage you to do this early on in your preparation, because it also affects your design of car. Okay, I will more about that later. Next slide. Okay, regarding vehicle design, we have included a new rule, which is that there must be a crumple zone of 100 millimeters between the front of the vehicle and the driver's feet. Okay, so that means the feet should not be touching the end of the car, but there should be a 100 millimeter crumple zone so that the driver's feet are not damaged or hurt in a slight collision. Next slide. Okay, regarding the monocoque, okay, we are a bit concerned about the safety of some of the cars, notably in the urban concepts. We want to make sure that there is sufficient protection from the front as well as the side. Okay, so please make sure that when you are designing your cars, that there is sufficient protection in the form of the vehicle frame or chassis, or that the monocoque is strong enough to protect the driver. I know everybody is trying to reduce weight and keep the car as light as possible, but at the same time, we need to protect the drivers in case of rollovers, frontal collisions, or even side impacts. So please take this into account in your design of vehicles. The other important thing we want to stress is that for lifting the vehicles, please place a rectangular box where the vehicle cover should be lifted and write the words lift here. This is to avoid the race marshals from lifting your car in the wrong place, because I know some of your cars are sensitive, and if you lift at the wrong place, we could damage it. So we want you to advise us where to lift the vehicle from. So please make sure that you mark that place properly. Okay, next slide. All right, about the safety belts, nothing really new, but the main thing is we've changed the wording slightly. The crotch strap must come from underneath the body, not behind the shoulders as before. And the topmost strap must be 10 degrees below the driver's shoulder. So next slide. So this is a picture of the crotch strap and how it should go. So it should just go underneath the body. The objective of this is to make sure that the driver does not slide in front in the case of an accident. That's why we want a crotch strap going backwards underneath the driver. Okay, next slide. And you might notice there are some slides where I put the word reminder at the bottom. That is for slides where actually there's no change in the rules, but I just want to remind you that these are some of the common things that are omitted or people have problems with. All right, so this is about the shoulder harness. So please make sure it goes down at an angle of at least 10 degrees. Again, this is to ensure that the driver does not slide upwards in the event of a rollover, for example. You don't want the driver to be sliding upwards and out of the safety belt, right? That's why it's going down, so that even if you turn upside down, the driver is still held in place and his helmet does not hit the ground. Next slide. Okay, this is another area which teams often make a mistake on, which is about adhesive tape to cover, to keep the body cover on. Especially for prototype vehicles, some teams like to put adhesive tape to hold cover in place and to reduce drag. But we'd like to remind you that this is actually dangerous, because when you put a lot of adhesive tape on the car, the driver actually has great difficulty escaping in the event of an emergency. So please remember, no adhesive tape to hold down the vehicle cover. Next slide. Okay, this is a major change from previous years. For 2018, the rule now is that all horns must be electrically driven and they must be proper automotive horns, okay? So do not use bicycle horns or any other kind of horns. You need to use horns that are commonly available on cars, and that is the only one that we will accept, okay? So no more bicycle horns, and make sure that it is a proper automotive horn, and it should have a continuous single tone. It should not have any funny chirping sounds like birds or siren-like tones. It is just a standard automotive horn. Okay, the objective of that is so that somebody is pressing the horn. Okay, not a bird chirping or any other sound. Okay, so that is a must for this year. Make sure you place it in a position where it is not obstructed, so that the sound can travel freely. Okay, next slide. Now, regarding the measurement of electricity, the horn must be powered by the accessory or propulsion battery. However, you do not need to have that measured by the geometer. So meaning to say, for cars that need to have a geometer installed, you can have the horn connected directly to the battery without passing through the geometer. In other words, whenever you horn, we will not be counting the energy used by the horn. All right, so that's clear, especially for the all energy measurements, which I'll talk about a bit later. Okay, next slide. So about exhaust systems, right? We now want to make sure that all exhaust pipes are proper exhaust pipes. So they should be solid with no signs of fatigue, cracking, or leaks. All right, so please make sure that all your exhaust pipes are in good condition and not damaged. And also they should be appropriate for the temperature of the exhaust. Okay, you know exhaust is hot. Please do not use plastic pipes and things that can only withstand low temperatures. So ideally it should be some material, ideally metal, which is able to withstand higher temperatures. Next slide. All right, regarding environmental requirements, basically, please just remember that we want vehicles to be compliant with the reasonable environmental standards. So don't have vehicles with plenty of black smoke coming out the back, or with a strong smell, or a very high sound level. Okay, we will check, and if found to be off, you will have to get it rectified, which is not easy at the event. So when you're testing your vehicles back home, please make sure that these are all within reasonable levels. Okay, rules are out there. Emergency shutdown, again, this is not a new rule, just want to stress again that push-pull levers are no longer accepted, only the red push buttons are allowed, okay? Red push buttons, which are latching, okay? Next slide. And about the steering, if you are using electronic systems, this is something that some teams have tried. We want to ensure that if it fails, the vehicle must still have a manual steering system. Okay, so if you plan to use an electronic system, it is allowed, but you must have a fail-safe backup where the driver can still override the steering. Next slide. And this is an announcement of sorts. Okay, we want prototype cars to have front. Okay, we recommend that for 2018. It is not mandatory yet, but for 2020, it will be mandatory to have a foot-operated front brake. Okay, so if you are planning to build your car for a couple of years, it might be good to start now and to have a front-operated foot brake. Okay, next slide. And similarly, for urban concepts, we are going to introduce the concept of having two doors, just like a normal car. However, we are not applying it immediately. It is only from 2019 onwards. However, if you are building a new car, again, we stress you could start introducing that in 2018 so that you don't have to make changes for 2019 when we will strictly apply this rule. Next slide. Lights of urban concept cars. We need a hazard light function as well now. In case your car stops somewhere, then you are just like a normal car, you should be able to engage the hazard light function, which is blinking on both sides. Next slide. And for urban concepts, this is an issue that we had last year, especially with the urban concepts brake disc. A lot of teams were actually doing various funny things with their brake systems, like using bicycle brakes, etc., and combining two brake discs, for example. So now for 2018, we are going to stress that a commercial braking system with a minimum disc thickness of 3 millimeters is mandatory. Okay, so please do not make your own brakes. Use a commercial brake system, okay? And it must be a minimum of 3 millimeters. To verify that it is a commercial brake system, we will need the manufacturer's documentation to demonstrate that it is real, okay? So please bring that along to the event. If you do not have it, we will deem it as not a commercial brake system and you will be disqualified, okay? So please take note of that. It's very important. And bicycle brakes are, of course, not allowed. Next slide. And regarding brakes for urban concepts, we have seen in the past some teams using even up to 4 cylinders for their brakes. So that is not allowed. We will allow a maximum of 2 master cylinders for the 2 separate circuits. And you can, of course, use a single master cylinder, provided it has a dual system circuit. Okay, so that's shown in the picture there, right? So please do not have more than 2 master cylinders. Next slide. And for 2018, there will no longer be a CNG category. So for teams who are interested in CNG, we have actually dropped this as an energy group, primarily because there is very little interest, and also that it is difficult to manage the safety and all of the associated problems with CNG. Okay, the next one is for USA, so not covering us. Next slide. Okay, this is a very important slide regarding the result calculations. For 2018, we will start all energy measurements for urban concept cars, meaning to say we will measure the energy based on 2 things. One is the primary propulsion energy. For example, if you're using gasoline, we will measure the gasoline consumed. And 2, we will also measure the electrical energy from the accessory battery. So the actual energy consumed will be the combination of the 2 and expressed, of course, still in kilometers per liter for ICEs, or for hydrogen, it will still be expressed in terms of a meter cube of hydrogen, but we will measure both the primary energy source as well as the electrical energy consumed. And that is for all urban concept cars. So urban concept teams, please note that. For prototypes, we will still only do the main propulsion energy, not the battery energy yet. So that will be coming in future years, but not for 2018. All right, so please take note. This is a very important slide. Next. And to cater to all this, of course, we need to put in our wonderful geometers. So we will install the geometers on all urban concept cars and vehicles, as you know. We will also install on some prototype vehicles, selected ones, more for testing purposes rather than actual result calculations, but to test it out on prototype vehicles. Okay, next slide. So with regard to the geometer locations, please note that you should not install geometers outside of the vehicle body. Okay, they all have to be installed inside the vehicle body. And they must be easy to read and reset. So that means if you put it in your engine compartment, it should be in a place where a technical inspector can be able to see to be able to reset the geometer, which is because there is a small button on the right side of the geometer and we need to be able to access it. So if you install it in such a way that it cannot be accessed, then we will ask you to reconfigure it. For battery electric vehicles, there's a slightly different requirement. It must be installed in such a way that we can actually read it from and reset it from outside without even opening the vehicle body to access it, as long as we can read and reset it.
Sorry, everyone. It seems Colin has been cut out. Let's see if we can get a hold of him, and maybe he's just lost his connection. Let's hope it's just a temporary little issue. Just trying to contact him now. Ying, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I just can't. Colin froze on the screen,
Okay.
and I didn't know
I think
if
he
it
might
was
have just lost his connection there for a minute. Let me see.
Right.
Yes. He was cut off mid presentation. Let's see where it was cut off so we can start again in the right place.
Oh, he's back. Hi,
Can you all hear
Colin.
me?
Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi, Colin.
Okay. Yeah.
Cut off for a little bit there. Would you mind starting over maybe on the last slide that you were on, just to make sure we didn't miss anything, and then just go from there.
Okay.
Can
so
you see my
sure.
screen?
Not yet
hang on.
seeing. It's still loading. Colin, are you still there?
I sort of lost something. I'm not sure. Just hang on. Sorry, guys.
You've lost video, but we can still see. We can still hear you, which is good.
I can't see my screen. I'm sorry. Hang on. I'll stop sharing and reshare instead.
Yeah, that sounds fine. Otherwise, I have the presentation as well. Just let me know. Sorry, everyone. We're just having some little technical issues. Get going again in a few minutes.
Can you try sharing instead?
Sharing my screen? Sure. What slide were we on exactly? Do you remember the number?
The Geometer slide. It's
Geometer slide. Okay. A little bit slow. All right.
we're on slide 30.
Sorry?
We're on slide 30.
30?
Yeah. Hi, Colin. Can you see the screen?
I can't see anything. Sorry. Don't know what happened.
Do you want
never
to
mind.
dial
I
out
will
until the
continue.
end? Okay.
Maybe that's a choice. Yeah. Otherwise, I can still continue if you can hear me.
Yeah, we're on the Geometer screen at the moment.
Yes, I know.
The one with
Can you see my screen?
I've lost everything. So sorry. As long as you can hear me, let's carry on, okay? Because we shouldn't waste time. Right. So about the Geometer location.
Yes, that's right.
I was talking about the Geometer location for all vehicles. Please make sure that the Geometer is inside the vehicle body, not outside. Okay. So sometimes teams go and latch it to the outside of the vehicle. That's not allowed. It must be inside the vehicle. And for all vehicles, it must be easy to read and to reset. And basically, when we say read and set means if, let's say, we open up the cover of the vehicle, the technical inspector should be able to read it as well as to reset it. There's a little button on the right side of the Geometer which needs to be accessible to the technical inspector. Right? If it's not, we will ask you to relocate the Geometer. For battery electric vehicles, there's a slightly different requirement in that the Geometer must be easy to read and reset from outside the vehicle. So typically this is done by having a small window cut into the vehicle body so that the inspector can see it straight away and can also insert a finger in to reset the Geometer. So that is specifically for battery electrics. All right, the next slide is about Geometer placements. So the Geometer placement, well, if you can move on to the next slide, it's easier to explain. All urban concept vehicles, the Geometer needs to be placed immediately after the battery, before the electrical system. For battery electric prototypes, which is the third row there, the Geometer can be placed just before the motor controller. If so desired, you can still place it immediately after the battery as well. It is your choice, but it must be before the motor controller at least. Now you see that there is two types of boxes there. One with a bold, a heavy line, that is mandatory, and those with a light red line, that's on request. So basically, those are the prototypes, which may be requested to test telemetry only for testing, but not for actual result measurements. For those that have the bold border, that is the thick line border, those are mandatory for the results. So that's all urban concepts and all battery electrics. For hydrogen vehicles, if you are using an external battery only and no accessory battery, you should place the Geometer between the external battery and the electrical system. Okay, next slide. This is something I've shown earlier already, which is about the horn. Basically, the horn does not need to be included in the Geometer reading. So you can actually have that outside of the Geometer and electrical system circuit. And the next slide is about the one battery rule, which is not a new rule. I'm just stressing again, because year in, year out, there's always a team that will come up with two batteries. So the rule is, as put here, only one battery is allowed. If you're a battery electric team, it must be the propulsion battery. If you're a non-battery electric team, it must be the accessory battery. So there's no option to have two batteries. Next slide. Batteries need to be mounted behind the driver's seat, okay, not under the driver. We have seen in this year that there are teams that actually put the battery underneath the driver. It is, they say it is behind the bulkhead, which is true, but at the same time, it is still underneath the driver, and we have seen that lithium batteries especially can be quite explosive and generate a lot of gases and stuff. So we recommend that all batteries be placed behind the driver. So it's not allowed to be underneath the driver. In case they start venting upwards, we want it to be driver. Okay, so please take note of this. No batteries underneath the driver, even though there's a bulkhead there. Next slide is about the lithium battery configuration. So just note, this is particularly for self-built batteries, so teams that might want to build their own batteries, or for teams that have a commercial battery but buy a separate BMS, you are still considered a self-built battery system, because to us, the battery is the battery plus BMS. So if you assemble a battery with a separate BMS, it is still a self-built battery from our point of view. So Article 57D, Part 2 and Part will explain what we mean here. So what we want is that if you have, move to the next slide. If you recall, in 2017, there was a rule that there's no possibility to have cells in parallel before being in series. We have changed that rule now because there are indeed some cases where it is possible. However, we require that if you use a series parallel combination, you must make sure that the individual cells never exceed the maximum allowable current. For example, if you look at this picture, each of these cells here, assuming they all have a maximum current limit of 10 amperes. If you have a system like the above, and one of them exceeds 10 amperes, it is protected. If you have the system below, with the same kinds of cells, and if, let's say, one of the cells exceeds 10 amperes, and you put a 40 amp fuse at the end, it will not cut off, and the system is not protected. So this is what we need if you're doing a series parallel combination. Okay. The other important thing is that all the cells in any self-built battery must be identical. Okay, you are not allowed to have different cells, and all configurations must be identical. So you need to have the same kind of if you have different strings of batteries, they must all be identical in construction. Okay, next slide is about lithium battery charging. And basically, we want that the battery to be charged by its own battery charger. So that means if you're charging your battery, make sure you use the battery charger that came with it. You may also use a battery charger which is bought separately, but it must be suited for the particular chemistry of the battery. So for example, if you buy this battery charger, you must make sure that if, let's say, you're using a lithium iron phosphate cell, your battery charger must be suitable for that. And you must be able to demonstrate this by the charger documentation. Okay, so otherwise it will not be accepted. Slide is about the battery tray. The battery tray must be solid and must be able to contain any spillage or loss of containment. So no cages or anything. We need a solid battery tray. And the next is about non-vehicle batteries. Please do not use power tool or handheld equipment batteries. That's not allowed. And for lithium batteries, next slide, we need to have proper documentation, something like the one on the right, with all the details about the cutoff limits. Rating range is not equal to cutoff limit. Next slide. For accessory battery capacity, please calculate that for your batteries. Make sure that the amp hours times the time on the track is sufficient for all the electrical loads. So let's say you need 10 amps throughout. Make sure your battery has enough capacity for 10 amps for, let's say, half an hour. And lastly, for electrical power usage, urban concepts may now use electrical components like electrical pumps, valve timing, electromechanical valve timing, etc., because we are going to measure that with the Geometer. For hydrogen vehicles, next slide, the fuel cell must be able to run by itself, and all fuel cell requirements, for example, temperature regulation, fan, compressors, must be powered by the fuel cell itself, not from the accessory battery. So this is an existing rule for hydrogen vehicles. Next slide is about other onboard energy uses. So for urban concepts, you can now use electrical pumps. For prototypes, not allowed yet. For external temperature regulation, we cap it to 100 degrees Celsius. Next slide is about starters. For all urban concept cars, all ICE cars, it is now mandatory to use an electrical starter. No more manual hand starting. This is because hand starting requires the driver to pull a rope, and that is not really the best way to drive. You want the driver's hands on the steering wheel. So this is no longer allowed. For hydrogen cylinders, next slide, please make sure that the cylinder is well secured and in such a way that there's no movement and stress on the pipework when the car is moving. For urban concepts, the telemetry equipment will be installed for all of them as per 2017. That comprises urban onboard computers, antennas, batteries, connector box, and sensors. So this next slide shows the typical stuff that we have in 2017. It may be different in 2018, but just to give you some idea, this is what we have for this year. The big difference is next year, we will provide the battery for the onboard computer. So there's no need for teams to provide a DC to DC converter. So we will provide the battery for the onboard computer. Next slide is about the Drivers' World Championship. It will still be held. Design rules are still about the same. We will change the format slightly in terms of allowance, fuel allowance, distance, and qualification methods. We will provide details further and more to come in Chapter 3 rules. Another development is the start of the Autonomous Urban Concept Competition in 2018. We will have sort of a small trial event in London in 2018. That's going to be more prominent in coming years. For now, it's just for a couple of cars. If you're interested, please get in touch with us. That will be the subject of the Chapter 4 rules, and there's more news on that to come. Moving to registration. Just to note, the schedule is as follows. The closing date for Phase 1 in Asia is 24th August. So please take note of that date and the dates for Phase 2 and Phase 3. So to talk about selection, priority will be given to teams that have previously joined and succeeded at the event, and teams with cars that are complete, and of course cars that have good quality submissions that you can demonstrate compliance. All right, so those are the preference, because we want teams that are successful to be at the event. We may allow more than one car per institute on availability of slots, but the requirement for this is that both cars must have different energy types, and at least one must be an urban concept vehicle. No guarantees, because we have lots of institutes and we do want to give each institute an opportunity. So the next slide shows the different combinations of energies and vehicle types. So as shown on the left, for car number 1, it has to be an urban concept car of any energy group. For car number 2, it can be either urban or prototype, and it must be a different energy group. So if the car number 1 is diesel, be a diesel, it has to be another energy type. And regarding the design, please take note that you have to understand the rules. If you don't, please ask questions so that you can clarify. Don't leave it to the event to find out you had it wrong. Please also look at the tech tips as they will give further guidance on design. We will be updating the tech tips, so watch out for the space. And if you're designing your car, please take note of the 2019 and 2020 developments. For example, the front brake for prototypes and the doors for urban concepts. I'd like to stress also that we had very few hydrogen teams in the past, so you might want to consider joining as a hydrogen team in 2018. For applications, please try to show that you comply with the rules. Try to give a most recent picture of your car or the stage of construction so that we know your progress. Not so critical for Phase 1, but for Phase 2 especially, we like to see that you're making progress. And please use your old team IDs so that we can see that you have taken part in the past and track your history. So then you have an advantage if you have succeeded in the past. And lastly, please take note, 24th August is the closing date for Phase 1, but that is not the date you should send in your submission, okay? Because remember, sometimes you have connection problems, IT fails you, your computer hangs, our system may hang. So please send before the 24th August. Don't leave it to the last day and to the last hour. And remember, your pictures are critical. Show us the right pictures and you can convince us, okay? If you send pictures like what I show here on the next slide, it's very unlikely that I will choose you, because it shows that the team is not ready and it's not likely to succeed. Next slide is about more details. So if you see this picture where we have teams with more detail showing the dimensions, the windows, the shutdown systems, the safety belts, the mirrors, etc. It shows us that they are trying to follow the rules, and they are. I'm more convinced that they are actually applying the concepts in the rules. Okay, so it's still not perfect. Perhaps they could show other pictures which show the roll bar or the bulkhead, and maybe if they have car or the car under construction. And the next picture shows a completed car, which is great, and it shows that this team is ready to take part. And the first picture shows a car that is under construction, which again is shows the car is in progress. In terms of preparation, please work backwards from the actual SEM event, noting that we need time for everything. So I won't dwell too much on that, but please make sure that these critical elements are taken care of, and you'll have a timeline for that. And for shipping, remember that takes time. So plan your shipping, and especially for battery electric teams, lithium batteries may need to be shipped by sea separately, and that may take up to a month. So please take that note of that. And also do note that when you're designing cars, small cars are cheaper to ship. If you send a big car, big heavy car, it's going to be more expensive. And lastly, about changes. After phase 1, you cannot change your vehicle class or energy type, but you can change the vehicle design and your team members, right? And lastly, about communications, please keep in touch with us and know what's going on, because rules may change. We will advise you, and we may make announcements. So read the newsletters, keep in touch with Facebook by email. You have an email address change, so that we can still contact you. All right, everybody. Sorry I've taken so long. Sarah, we can have the Q&A now.
Thanks, Colin. I think that was a very clear and comprehensive presentation. Let's look at the questions we have on the live chat. So I'll start from the very beginning. The very first question came from Muhammad Ali, who is from Team Pneknust from Pakistan. He asks, is it necessary to install a speed controller in battery electric? What if we want to run the motors on full throttle?
The speed controller is entirely up to you. We do not control how you run your vehicle. So the main thing for us is that you are able to control the motor as you see fit. So as long as you are safe, we don't really worry about how you manage your speed, but it must be something that you can manage. Okay, so entirely up to you. That's the answer.
Thanks. Next question is from ITS team Sapuanjin from Indonesia. They run in the urban concept category and in ICE. They ask, is there any specification or dimension for the side impact protection?
No, the answer is no. There is no measurement for the side impact protection. We do try to ensure that we give the teams the flexibility to design their cars. I know people say that in, let's say, Formula SE, SAE, there is very strict requirements about how much force and how much strength is available in the side impact or front impact protection. For us, we do not do that, but we will assess based on our technical inspectors as to how strong the vehicle body is. Basically, what we would like to see is that the protection should be firm and it is not easy to deflect. Okay, so that means it should be fairly rigid. and not something which is easy to bend. Let's say if I apply a force or push it, it shouldn't be, I would say, flimsy. It should be fairly rigid and stiff. So nothing very specific, but that is the general direction that we are looking at.
Okay, thanks. The next question is from Bengawan Team UNS from Indonesia as well. They're running in the urban concept diesel category, and they also have an urban concept gasoline vehicle. They want to know if there's a possibility that both of them are selected for the competition.
So we will allow at most 2 urban concepts for a given university or school, that provided that one of them is an urban concept and the other must have a different energy type. So if you're gasoline, the other car must be either a diesel, a battery electric, or hydrogen, or ethanol, or GTL, something else, but not urban concept gasoline as well. So you can refer to the slide I had earlier on this one, which is on slide 65. Okay, thanks.
Next question from, I'm not sure who it's from, so please remember to put in your team name, country, vehicle category, and energy type, please. This is about Article 51A. Validity of the commercial brake system. Can an invoice or delivery order be accepted as proof?
We would like to see the actual technical data about the brake, if possible, because the invoice may not tell us very much about it. So we would like to see the spec sheet for the brake, for example. Okay, so because the invoice may just give a number or a name or something, but we need to really see the documentation, which tells us this is this brake of what quality, for example. So please bring proper specifications for the brakes.
Great, thanks. I have a question from Team Kaizen from India, participating in battery electric urban concept. They ask, do we need to have rear starting light for urban concept battery electric?
For the starter light, that is not required for battery electrics. Okay, just let me restate this. Okay, every year teams are confused about the starter light. So I'll just restate that. A starter light is used to indicate the use of the starter motor, which is used to start an internal combustion engine. So it only applies to internal combustion engines. Okay, so not relevant to hydrogen or to battery electrics. Yeah, so the answer is no. Only for internal combustion engines, you need a starter light, which will light up whenever the driver initiates the starter motor.
Okay, that's good, nice and clear, I think.
Yep.
Build a new body this year, but we are not sure that we will finish it in time. So we may go with our old vehicle instead if the new one isn't finished in time. Phase 1 registration, should we submit our old vehicle picture or the unfinished new design?
I would say submit the new design. Let us know your progress as you go along. And if you are not able to, then you can resubmit to us the old design. But since your intent is for the new design, do submit the new one, because first, it also allows us to give you some comments about your vehicle. And yeah, but just write a note to us in your application that you are planning to do this, so that we are aware that you also have a backup vehicle in the event that we select you and you cannot be ready. You can still use the backup. So let us know in your phase 1. Put a note in your documentation somewhere that you have a backup as well. Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Some of these questions are not very clear, guys, and you're forgetting to put in your team name and category. So please do try and put that information in your questions. Hi, we are a team from Brunei. From the newsletter, it was stated to only have one faculty advisor to supervise the team. Does this comply with the new rules? Our government policy only permits at least 2 supervisors.
So I can actually answer this because we had the same issue last year with the Brunei teams. And I think the solution was to have one of the faculty advisors not come as part of the team, but as an additional person that was taking care of and in charge of the students, but not actually as a member of the team. So if that is again possible this year, that would be in line with the regulations that we have that limit the number of faculty advisors on each team formally to 1.
Yep, that makes sense. And this year we're hoping to have the paddock open to the public during public opening times, which means that if you do have any visitors or any extra advisors that are coming, they'll be able to come see you in your paddock during the day, but they won't be able to stay the whole opening times like you guys. What's the next question? Let me see. So from APAT62, they compete in the urban ICE category. Is the hybrid vehicle entered in the ICE class or the battery electric class? And how about the calculation of the consumption? So this is about hybrid vehicles.
Okay, thanks for the question. Let me just state clearly here. Hybrid vehicles only apply to the ICE category. So when we say a hybrid vehicle in the Shell Eco Marathon context, it means that you run with basically internal combustion engine, and that is your primary energy source. And then during the course of the attempt, some energy is recovered or stored into a supercapacitor. And that energy from that supercapacitor can then be used to drive the vehicle as an alternate to the primary energy source. So that is what we consider a hybrid. So you may use a parallel or a series hybrid, but it is only applicable to ICE engines. For hydrogen, we don't consider that a hybrid, but you can actually choose to store the energy produced from your fuel cell in a supercapacitor as well, but we don't call that a hybrid. We just leave that as an option for the hydrogen class. For battery electrics, we also do not consider them hybrids. However, you can recover the energy because our joule meter will actually read both ways. So if you recover energy from the wheels back to the joule meter, it will subtract the energy consumed. Right? So that is what we allow in terms of energy recovery. But in terms of the context, Shell Eco Marathon context, what we call hybrids are basically ICEs with energy recovery. Though, as I said, you can actually have hybrid energy storage on both the hydrogen as well as the battery electrics, though we don't call them hybrids. Hope that's clear.
Thanks, Colin. And again, if you guys have any questions, you can always post them on the Shell Eco Marathon Asia Facebook group, or you can send an email to, I think it's ecomarathonasia@shell.com.
eco-marathon-asia@shell.com.
There you go. So for any technical questions that are really specific to your vehicle or your team, please try and use the email address. If you have any questions that you think might be useful for other teams, then please use the Facebook group. Next question is from Team Eco Tigers from the Philippines. They're competing in the urban category. They ask, is it possible that we put hydrogen in our energy category, but if we can't finish it in time, we actually participate in battery electric?
I just
Well,
answered this question from the
Okay.
inbox actually. Sorry, Colin, continue.
Go on, Jiying. Why don't you explain your answer?
I just said that basically you can't change energy type and vehicle category after phase one, which is also what Colin said just now on one of his last few slides. So no, you can't change from battery electric to hydrogen later on in the competition.
Or from hydrogen to battery electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are really concerned about that, what you could do is plan for a 2-year plan instead of 1-year plan. So example is instead of planning to do that in 2018, you can plan to do the hydrogen in the 2019 event if you think that it's not possible. However, I think it is still possible we still have time, so it is most likely possible. Many teams have actually built cars in this kind of time frame.
I have a question about the fire retardant coveralls. Someone is asking, can we use a one-piece fire retardant coverall instead of a real racing suit?
Yes, you may use, as long as it is fire retardant, okay? The keyword is fire retardant. We do need something that is fire retardant, and you must be able to show that the material that is present is of fire retardant quality, right? So it should be Nomex or Safe or some other stuff which is you have a certificate of the quality. All right, so that is acceptable. But it must be one piece and you have the documentation to prove it.
We have another question, I think is more for Ziying. From Team Zyger, maybe Tiger, from Singapore, Prototype Battery Electric. How many team members should we have, 8 or 10?
So you can have a maximum of up to 10 members, but there isn't really a minimum. So as long as you have less than 10 members, that's fine.
I think right now there's an issue with the registration in phase 1 where it's not showing 10 team members.
Yeah,
is that
that's
right?
right. So the team that works on the site is trying to fix that, but it's confirmed for sure that our maximum this year is 10 members instead of 8 like last year. So that is a confirmed fact. It's just that the site is not reflecting that data as of yet. So if you have worries, you can register, up to 8 people, and you'll be able to add the additional 2 people in phase 2, for example.
Exactly. So no need to panic. You'll still be able to edit and add and retract people in phases 2 and 3. It's just the website isn't quite updated yet. So you'll be allowed 10 people, and in those 10 people, you should include your faculty advisor. You can't have more than one faculty advisor, but he should be included in there if the faculty advisor needs full access at all times, just like the students. I have a question from Samar, Urban UGM, Indonesia. Is there any special system needed for the parking brake?
Okay, there is no specific system for the parking brake. The main thing that we require is that the parking brake must be able to hold the vehicle without driver intervention. So that means just like a normal car, the parking brake must be able to be engaged and stay engaged without the driver holding on to it. Okay, so it's different from the normal, the vehicle brakes where you need to apply it. It has to be able to hold by itself. So for example, the vehicle must still stay parked and not moving. And then, of course, it must be able to withstand a certain amount of force, which we've specified in the rules. So yes, you're free to do as whatever design you want, as long as it is able to do those.
Okay, thank you. Okay, guys, we're slowly running out of time. We've already gone past the time just because we had those issues, which kind of put us back. So let's give it another 5 minutes, and then we'll have to wrap things up. So the next question is from Team EcoFlash Singapore. They're competing in the prototype hydrogen category, and they're asking, can the hydrogen sensor be placed directly below the ventilation hole? Will it be considered as blocking the ventilation hole?
Well, you should place it close to the ventilation hole, but not blocking it, of course. The ventilation hole serves a purpose, so it should be free of any obstructions. So I'm pretty sure you can find a place within the vicinity of the hole to place that sensor. And of course, it has to be placed at the highest part of the compartment because hydrogen rises. So we do need it at the highest part of the vehicle compartment. And I'm sure you can stick it somewhere close to the bulkhead or to the body, which is close to the ventilation hole. So it shouldn't be a problem. Just don't obstruct it.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. The next question is from Team UP from the Philippines. They're an Urban Concept Battery Electric. And they want to know, are all teams from all regions allowed to join the autonomous urban concept category? Will there be an event in every region?
That's a good question. Thank you. Well, to be open about this, we will not have an event in all the regions. The plan is to have an event of sorts in London. It is not close to other regions. However, getting to London might be a bit prohibitive. However, it is open, and we will have so-called sessions between Shell and teams who are interested in joining the autonomous, and there'll be sort of like mini workshops, if you call it, and teams from all different regions are allowed to join in, and you may then see whether you're still interested to partake of that. And yeah, if it's possible, if you want to join, it will have to be in London, and more details to follow, but you need to be prepared to travel because it's a long way away. But at the moment, we are not able to have it in all locations. So hopefully in the future, but for now, the sort of trial competition will be in London. Okay, so but don't think that is excluding teams from Asia. It is open, and if you are interested, let us know, and we will make sure that you can get involved in our so-called workshops so that you can find out more and get involved in the process. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your interest. It's definitely still a work in progress, but I mean, the more teams are interested, the better for us. It's definitely something we want to see happening everywhere in a few years, but as with any new category, it'll take some time. I have another question. Will the racetrack change in 2018?
That's a very good question. If we are going back to Changi Exhibition Center for 2018, then the racetrack will be the same. At the moment, my expectation is that we will be in Singapore for next year. The question is whether it will still be at the Changi Exhibition Center. I cannot say for now, but my guess is that it will be. But just watch out for the news. We will advise you as soon as we can. I don't think it will be different, but it's not for me to say. We're still having discussions on this. So just keep an eye out on the news, and we will keep you posted.
Okay. Okay, guys, let's make it 2 more questions. I have one question that I think will be quite helpful for everyone. Team SGNP, Urban Concept Hydrogen from Singapore. Since hydraulic brakes systems are commonly used on bicycles, are we still able to use them? So this is an Urban Concept team asking if they can use hydraulic bicycle brakes.
The answer is no. We have spelled it out very clearly for the brakes in urban concept cars that you need to have automotive brakes, no bicycle brakes. So that is not negotiable, and you need to have a minimum disc thickness of 3 millimeters. So, and we need commercial brakes as specified. So you need to have documentation to show that you actually have proper automotive brakes. So please refer to the rules. Bicycle brakes are allowed. I know you have hydraulic brakes for bicycles, but not allowed for Shell Eco Marathon.
Yep, that's right, guys. As usual, make sure you read those rules really carefully. That rule isn't new. It's been there since last year as well. So please make sure you read them.
That's right. And please note for this year, or sorry, for 2018, you will need to have documentation showing that it is a commercial brake system that you have purchased. Okay, so not just something you have fabricated, which is 3 millimeters in thickness, because we do not want to compromise the safety of the teams. I'm not doubting your capabilities, but we just want to be safe for all teams. So to make it simple, we just want to have a commercial brake system. That's the rule for next year.
Okay, last question is from Team Kaizen from India, I believe. Participating in battery electric urban concept. Can we use the rear running lights as rear brake lights in urban concepts?
Yes, you may. We will test the brakes. We'll test the lights. As long as it does the functions, you may use the combined rear running lights as well as brake lights. But you must be able to demonstrate to us during the design check.
Great. Okay, guys. That wraps today's session up. If there are any questions that we did not answer, which I know there are, please don't hesitate to post them on the question thread in the Shell Eco Marathon Asia Facebook group, and we will do our best to answer them very quickly. If there's any other questions, you can send an email to Ziying at eco-marathon-asia@shell.com. And we will also do our best to answer those questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. We had up to 90 people join today, which I think is an all-time record. And that's really great. It shows you guys are interested and you're keen to find out more, which I think is really, really positive. So please keep it up. Please keep the questions coming. If you have any doubts, just ask us, and make sure you read the newsletter really carefully, that you keep an eye on your mailbox for the team managers. You keep an eye on our website, and that you, especially most of all, read the rules. I'll let Colin and Ziying maybe add something to wrap this up, and then we'll be able to close.
Colin first.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I can't stress enough that you need to read the rules and make sure that you apply them in your designs. It happens every year. Teams come to the event and say, oops, that's in the rules. I didn't know. And that's really sad, because then you fail technical inspection. So please do read the rules. Make sure you understand. If you don't understand, ask the questions. And I know I'm a parrot, but I would say get ready now, okay? Because you don't have that much time. It seems long time to go, but believe me, you have so many things to do. So get ready now and do as much as you can, especially in terms of design and funding. A lot of teams fail because they don't get funding in the end, and do not make it to the event. So do sort out the funding as well. And of course, remember the deadline, which is 24th of August. But as I said, don't submit on the 24th of August. Do it a bit earlier. So with that, I just say thank you for your questions. Good luck, and I hope to see you all in Shell Eco Marathon 2018.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Seeing any last words?
Nothing except please read your newsletters and your emails, and if you have any questions, always just send them to me on the Facebook group or the Eco Marathon page. But always identify yourselves, because if you don't, I can't address your questions as effectively. Urban concept rules are different from prototype rules, and the different energy classes have different rules as well. So please identify yourself. It really helps us in answering your questions. That's all.
Great. All right.
For phase 1, submit on time.
Yeah, don't waste any time with submitting phase 1. It's really quick, it's really easy, so please do it as soon as you can. And as you know, it closes on the 24th, which is actually very soon. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. I think this was a really good session. We'll have another one in a few months, I think, concentrating more on logistics, and Colin will be there again to answer any technical questions as usual. So thank you all very much, and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.